Welcome to the channel. Hit subscribe and dive into stories that'll stay with you long after the video ends. Let's begin. The wedding smelled of white roses and rain. Soft music drifted through the hall, muffled beneath the nervous whispers of guests who wondered how such a quiet man had won such a radiant bride. Amelia stood beside Ethan as the officiant spoke. Her smile a flawless mask, practiced, perfect. Underneath, her heart pounded with a secret so cold it could cut glass. This wasn't love, it was justice. At least, that's what she told herself. Ethan Gray, the man she was marrying, had destroyed her father's company 5 years ago. A ruthless acquisition, papers signed in smoke and deceit, leaving her family in ruins. Her father had died soon after, a heart attack brought on by shame. Amelia had watched her mother wither, the light gone from her eyes, and something inside her had broken too. So she made a plan. She studied. She rebuilt herself. She clawed her way into the same social circles Ethan moved in. Business galas, charity events, quiet dinners where people smiled with teeth too white to be real. She made him notice her, and when he finally did, when he fell for her soft laughter and supposed innocence, she felt a dark triumph curl through her veins. Now, under the wedding arch, she looked into the eyes of the man she had sworn to destroy. "Do you, Amelia Hart, take Ethan Gray to be your lawfully wedded husband?" She hesitated just long enough to feel her pulse, then smiled. "I do," the guests clapped. Cameras flashed. Champagne flutes shimmered like tiny daggers in the light. Ethan kissed her, gently, reverently. And for one fractured second, she felt something that wasn't anger. It was disarming. His touch was warm, his lips hesitant, almost unsure. That wasn't how monsters kissed. Later, at the reception, he stayed close to her. He laughed at her jokes, brushed hair from her cheek with fingertips that trembled slightly. When the music slowed, he took her hand and they danced. "Are you happy?" he asked, voice low, uncertain. She tilted her head. "Aren't I supposed to be?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You tell me." The way he said it made her chest tighten. She looked around at the glittering room, the friends, the flowers, the endless perfection, and for a fleeting instant she wondered if he sensed it. The lie, the reason behind it all. Then she reminded herself no one could know. That night, as the last guest left and the champagne dried sticky on the tables, Ethan lifted her in his arms, carrying her across the threshold of the penthouse. The city sprawled beneath them, alive with light. He whispered, "Welcome home, Mrs. Gray." Amelia forced a smile. "Home," she repeated, the words sour in her mouth. When he turned to hang his jacket, her eyes fell on the folder inside her luggage, hidden beneath silk and lace. Documents, proof, the first step in a slow, patient ruin. Her revenge had only just begun. But as Ethan turned back toward her, smiling that unguarded smile, she felt the first small crack open inside her chest, and she didn't know yet that it would destroy everything. Morning came quietly, seeping through the tall glass windows like a shy guest. Amelia woke before Ethan. The sheets smelled faintly of cedar and soap, clean, ordinary, infuriatingly human. She turned on her side, studying the man she had married. He wasn't what she expected. No arrogance, no smug victory in his face, just calm, as though the world didn't owe him anything. She'd spent years painting him as a villain in her mind. But this sleeping figure with faint circles under his eyes, didn't fit the story. She slipped from bed and padded barefoot across the polished floor. Her reflection caught in the mirror. White silk robe, guarded eyes, a woman built on secrets. In the kitchen, she found a note taped to the coffee pot. Had to run to the office early. "Coffee's ready. Don't wait for me. I'll bring dinner home." Her lips tightened. He was being considerate, thoughtful, the kind of man she had told herself didn't exist. She tore the note in half. That day, she explored every corner of the penthouse. Minimalist, elegant, expensive, of course. But then she saw the photos, small frames tucked away on a bookshelf. A younger Ethan with his arm around a woman. Not romantic, but familial. His sister, maybe. Then a photo of a small boy in hospital pajamas holding a teddy bear. Ethan kneeling beside him, smiling, her breath hitched. She picked up the frame. On the back, in faded ink, for helping me walk again. Jamie. A charity case. The boy must have been from one of those medical foundations Ethan donated to. Amelia remembered seeing his name on a donors list once. Playing the saint, are we? She murmured to herself. Or just covering the sins? She set the photo down, but her voice lacked venom. When Ethan returned that evening, he brought takeout instead of fine dining. I figured you'd prefer something normal, he said, unboxing noodles and fried rice like it was a sacred offering. Normal, she repeated, watching him eat with chopsticks, sleeves rolled up, tie loose. You don't strike me as a man who does normal. He smiled faintly. I used to. Before I learned it's the only thing that feels real. She wanted to ask what he meant, but the words tangled on her tongue. Instead, she asked, Why me, Ethan? He looked up, startled by the question. Why you? Yes, her gaze was steady. You could have had anyone. He paused, then said quietly, Because when you smile, it doesn't look rehearsed. Everyone else's does. Her pulse jumped. For a second, she almost forgot why she was there. Almost. Later that night, when he fell asleep beside her, she slipped from bed and retrieved the hidden folder. Her father's letters, the old financial documents, the proof of Ethan Gray's acquisition that crushed Hart & Co. Under the soft lamplight, she stared at the numbers. The signatures. Her father's handwriting trembling with fury. Her hand trembled too, not from rage but from doubt. What if she'd been wrong? The thought came and went like lightning, sharp, unwanted, dangerous. She shoved it away. Revenge wasn't a question. It was the only thing left of her father. She closed the folder. But the boy's photo, the one on the shelf, kept flickering in her mind like a candle that refused to go out. And she didn't see Ethan watching from the doorway. Silent, unreadable. His eyes darker than before. The next few weeks unfolded like a dream she couldn't quite wake from. Ethan never demanded her affection, never questioned her silences. He treated her not like a prize, but like a fragile truth he didn't want to break. That should have made it easier to hate him, but instead it tangled everything. They hosted dinners, attended charity galas. Every time he introduced her with a quiet pride that felt undeserved. This is my wife, Amelia, he would say. She has a heart for people. She'd smile, keeping her voice sweet. He's exaggerating. But afterward, when the lights dimmed and the guests left, he would take her hand and say softly, You make the room warmer, you know that? And she'd freeze, because that wasn't part of the plan. One evening, she went to his office, the fortress where her father's ruin had been signed into existence. It stood tall, all steel and glass, humming with the pulse of late-night workers. She slipped inside while Ethan was in a meeting, her heels echoing against marble. The receptionist had smiled too easily, waved her through. Being Mrs. Gray had its privileges. In his office, she began searching. Drawers, files, anything that would show the paper trail she needed to expose him. But what she found instead stopped her cold. A drawer filled with handwritten thank you letters. Dozens of them. From employees, from families, from small business owners whose debts had been forgiven by Gray Enterprises, and a document folder labeled Hart & Co. 2018. Her breath caught. She opened it, expecting proof of corruption. Inside was a single letter, yellowed with time. To the family of David Hart it began. I never meant for what happened. The acquisition was forced by your father's partner, a man who forged signatures to push through the deal. I tried to intervene. By the time I found out, it was too late. I've carried the guilt ever since. It was signed, Ethan Gray. Her fingers went numb. She sat back, the world spinning around her. The door opened behind her. Looking for something? Ethan's voice, calm, steady, filled the room. She turned slowly, clutching the file to her chest. I was just what? His eyes were unreadable. Trying to understand who I am? Or trying to confirm what you think I am? Her throat tightened. You ruined my family. He nodded once, pain flickering across his face. Yes, I did. Even if I didn't mean to, I still did. That admission, simple, unguarded, shook her more than denial ever could. He stepped closer, voice low. I knew who you were before you told me your name, Amelia. I knew what you'd lost. I thought, Maybe if I could love you enough, it might heal something in both of us. The words hit like a strike to the chest. She took a step back, heart hammering. You knew? Yes, his eyes glistened. And I married you anyway, for a heartbeat? Silence filled the office, heavy, electric, unbearable. Then she did the only thing her pride could manage. She slapped him. The sound cracked the air. Ethan didn't move. Didn't speak. She dropped the folder, turned, and walked out. The echo of her heels chasing her through the empty hall like a judgment. And for the first time since her wedding, Amelia Hartgray didn't know whose side she was on. Rain hit the city like shards of glass that night. Amelia stood beneath the awning of a quiet cafe, soaked to the bone, the letter from Ethan still clutched in her trembling hand. She couldn't go home. Not yet. His words replayed in her head. I knew who you were before you told me your name. Every syllable carved into her like a blade turned inward. He'd known, all along. So what was she to him? A redemption? A penance? A way to rewrite his guilt with her forgiveness? She wanted to hate him for that too, but she couldn't stop remembering the way his voice had cracked, the way his eyes had looked when he said it, not triumphant, but haunted. Inside the cafe, she sat in a corner booth, staring at her reflection in the rain-blurred window. Who was she now? The avenger or the fool? Her phone buzzed. A message from Ethan, please come home. We need to talk, she hesitated, then turned the phone face down. When she finally returned to the penthouse hours later, the lights were dim. Ethan sat by the window, jacket off, shirt sleeves rolled, looking out at the skyline. He didn't turn when she entered. I was married once before, he said quietly. You never asked, her breath stilled. She was my business partner's sister. When the deal with your father collapsed, she was caught in the crossfire. She couldn't forgive me. She left, and a month later he swallowed hard. She took her own life. The silence stretched thin between them. I told myself I'd never love again, he went on. Then you appeared, and it felt like the universe was giving me a second chance to make something right. Amelia's chest tightened until it hurt. Her revenge suddenly felt childish. Cruel. You should have told me, she whispered. I was afraid, he said. Afraid you'd leave before you saw who I really was. Tears blurred her vision, but she blinked them away. You think knowing the truth changes what happened to my father? No, he said softly. But maybe it changes what happens to us. She turned toward him, fury and grief warring in her eyes. You think you can fix this with words? No, he rose, finally facing her. But I can try with actions. He stepped closer, carefully, as though she might break. You want the company back? It's yours. I'll sign it over. Every asset, every account. I should have done it years ago. She stared at him. No one gives away an empire, Ethan. I don't want an empire, he said. I just want peace, her lips trembled. You're a fool, he smiled faintly. Maybe, but I'd rather be a fool who tried to love you than a man who hides behind guilt forever. For the first time, she saw him, not as the destroyer of her past, but as a man drowning in his own mistakes, trying to build something fragile and good out of the wreckage. Her plan, years of bitterness, strategy, lies, suddenly felt weightless. I don't know if I can forgive you, she whispered. Then don't, he said. Just start over. Let's build something real, even if it breaks us. Outside, the rain softened to a whisper. Amelia looked at him for a long moment, then turned away, not toward the door, but toward the window, where the lights of the city shimmered like 1,000 second chances. But behind her, Ethan swayed slightly, one hand gripping the chair, his face pale. Ethan, she said, voice trembling. He didn't answer. Then he collapsed. Ethan. The name tore from her throat as she rushed to his side. His skin was clammy, his breath shallow, eyes half open but unfocused. The city outside blurred into streaks of light as panic crashed through her. She fumbled for her phone, dialing emergency services with shaking fingers. The minutes between that call and the ambulance's arrival felt like years. Stay with me, she whispered, clutching his hand. Don't you dare leave now. His lips moved, barely sound. I told you. I wanted peace. Then fight for it, she choked out. Please, the siren screamed through the rain. Hours later, the sterile light of the hospital burned her eyes. Machines hummed softly around his bed, tubes and monitors weaving between them like tangled threads. The doctor's words still echoed in her. Head. Stress-induced heart arrhythmia, exhaustion, 2. Much pressure for too long, he'll recover, the doctor had said. But he needs rest. Real rest. Now she sat by his bedside, her hand resting near his, watching his chest rise and fall. She thought about all the nights she had imagined his ruin, how many ways she had planned to break him. And somehow, it was her revenge that had brought him to this point. She pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. What have I done? The days blurred. She barely left the room. When he finally stirred, his voice was little more than a whisper. You stayed. She looked up, tears threatening. Of course I stayed, I thought, he said, eyes fluttering open. I'd wake up alone. She swallowed hard. You almost did. A small smile tugged at his lips. Then I'm luckier than I deserve. For the first time, she didn't look away. You shouldn't be saying that. You should be angry. You should hate me. I can't, he murmured. You gave me something real, even if it started as a lie. The words cracked something inside her. She took his hand, the one that had once signed away her father's company, and held it tight. I came into your life to destroy you, she confessed. Every smile, every touch, every word, I planned it. I thought if I could make you fall, I could make him proud again. But all I did was lose myself. He looked at her for a long, quiet moment. Then maybe we both needed to fall, so we could stand up different. She let out a broken laugh, tears sliding freely now. You're impossible. Persistent, he corrected gently. Weeks passed. He grew stronger, and one afternoon, as sunlight spilled through the hospital window, she brought him a folder, the same one she'd once used as a weapon. I destroyed the copies, she said. This is the last one. He looked at it, then at her. Are you sure? She nodded. I don't want to live inside that story anymore. He reached for her hand. Then let's write a new one. Outside, the city pulsed with life. Cars, voices, rain evaporating on warm pavement. Amelia leaned her head on his shoulder. For the first time, there was no vengeance between them. No ghosts of the past whispering through the silence. Only the fragile rhythm of two hearts learning to beat in time again. Ethan, she whispered, closing her eyes. Maybe peace isn't something you find. Maybe it's something you build. He smiled faintly, his thumb brushing her hand. Then let's build. And in that small, sterile room, surrounded by the hum of machines and the scent of disinfectant and rain, two broken people began again. Not as enemies, not as saviors, but as survivors of their own mistakes. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and visit the channel for more real-life stories.